I never thought I would find myself in a place like this. The old mansion loomed before me, its once grand facade now a crumbling testament to time. I had heard whispers about it, stories of a reclusive collector who had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a collection of art that was said to be both beautiful and grotesque. As an aspiring art historian, I was drawn to the mystery like a moth to a flame. I had to see it for myself. The sun dipped below the horizon as I approached the heavy oak door, its surface marred by years of neglect. I hesitated for a moment, the chill of the evening air creeping into my bones. But curiosity pushed me forward. I pushed the door open, and it creaked ominously, as if warning me to turn back. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. Shadows danced along the walls, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. The foyer was vast, with a grand staircase spiraling upward into darkness. To my left, a door stood ajar, revealing a dimly lit room filled with canvases. I stepped inside, my heart racing with anticipation. The walls were lined with paintings, each one more disturbing than the last. They depicted scenes of violence and despair, yet there was an undeniable beauty in the brushstrokes. I felt an inexplicable connection to the art, as if it were calling to me. As I moved deeper into the room, I noticed a peculiar painting that stood apart from the others. It was a portrait of a woman, her eyes piercing and alive, as if she were watching me. I felt a strange compulsion to reach out and touch the canvas. The moment my fingers brushed against it, a jolt of electricity surged through me. I stumbled back, gasping for breath. The room spun around me, and I felt as if I were being pulled into the painting itself. Suddenly, I was no longer in the room. I found myself in a dark, twisted version of the mansion, the walls pulsating with a life of their own. The air was thick with an oppressive weight, and I could hear faint whispers echoing around me. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped in a nightmare of my own making. I turned to run, but the hallways twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the heart of the mansion. I stumbled into a room filled with mirrors, each one reflecting a different version of myself. Some were grotesque, with twisted features and hollow eyes, while others were eerily beautiful, as if they were mocking me. I reached out to touch one of the mirrors, and as my fingers made contact, the reflection shifted. I saw the woman from the painting standing behind me, her expression unreadable. I spun around, but she was gone. Desperation clawed at my throat as I searched for an exit. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices urging me to stay, to become part of the collection. I could feel their pull, a seductive promise of immortality through art. But I resisted, fueled by the instinct to survive. I had to escape this place before it consumed me. Finally, I found a door at the end of the hall. I flung it open and stumbled into a dimly lit corridor. The walls were lined with more paintings, but these were different. They depicted scenes of people in agony, their faces twisted in terror. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized that each painting was a record of a life taken, a soul trapped within the canvas. I pressed on, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear footsteps behind me, echoing in the silence. Someone, or something, was following me. I quickened my pace, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I had to find a way out before it was too late. As I rounded a corner, I stumbled into a large gallery. The walls were adorned with the most exquisite paintings I had ever seen, but they were marred by a sense of dread. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it rested a small, ornate box. My curiosity piqued, I approached it, my heart racing. What secrets lay within? I reached for the box, but as my fingers brushed against it, the room shifted once more. The paintings warped and twisted, their colors bleeding into one another. I felt a surge of energy, and suddenly, I was back in the foyer, the door slamming shut behind me. I was free, but the weight of what I had experienced lingered in the air. I stumbled outside, gasping for breath, the cool night air hitting my face like a splash of cold water. I stumbled outside, gasping for breath, the cool night air hitting my face like a splash of cold water. But as I turned to look back at the mansion, a sense of dread washed over me. The windows glowed faintly, as if the house itself were alive, watching me with a hunger that sent chills down my spine. I shook my head, trying to dispel the lingering fear, but the image of the woman's piercing eyes haunted me. I knew I couldn't leave just yet. The allure of the collection was too strong, and I felt an insatiable need to understand what had happened inside those walls. I took a deep breath and made my way back to the entrance, determined to uncover the truth behind the collector and his art. As I stepped back inside, the atmosphere shifted. The air felt heavier, charged with an energy that made my skin prickle. I moved cautiously through the foyer, the echoes of my footsteps swallowed by the oppressive silence. The paintings seemed to watch me, their subjects frozen in time, each one a testament to a life once lived. I retraced my steps to the gallery, my heart pounding in my chest. The pedestal still stood in the center of the room, the ornate box beckoning me like a siren's call. I approached it once more, my hands trembling with anticipation. What secrets lay within? What had the collector hidden from the world? With a deep breath, I lifted the lid of the box. Inside, I found a collection of small, intricately carved figurines, each one representing a different scene from the paintings I had seen. They were beautiful yet unsettling, capturing moments of despair and anguish in exquisite detail. I felt a strange connection to them, as if they were alive, whispering their stories to me. As I examined the figurines, I noticed a small, folded piece of paper tucked beneath them. I carefully unfolded it, revealing a handwritten note. The words were scrawled in a frantic hand, and my heart raced as I read. Beware the collector. He takes more than just art. He takes souls. Each piece is a life, a story trapped within the canvas. If you seek to understand, you must be willing to pay the price. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. The collector was not just a man, he was a predator, feeding on the essence of those he captured. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I realized the true nature of the collection. The paintings were not mere art, they were prisons, holding the souls of the damned. I glanced around the gallery, my mind racing. I had to find a way to escape this nightmare, but the pull of the art was intoxicating. I could feel it calling to me, promising knowledge and power beyond my wildest dreams. But at what cost? Suddenly, the whispers returned, louder this time, echoing in my mind. They urged me to stay, to become part of the collection. I shook my head, trying to block them out, but they grew more insistent. I stumbled back, my heart racing as I fought against the tide of despair that threatened to engulf me. In a moment of clarity, I remembered the figurines. Perhaps they held the key to breaking the collector's hold. I gathered them up, clutching them tightly in my hands. I had to confront the collector, to demand answers and find a way to free the trapped souls. With newfound determination, I made my way through the mansion, searching for any sign of the collector. The hallways twisted and turned, each corner revealing more paintings, more echoes of suffering. I felt the weight of their despair pressing down on me, but I pressed on, fueled by a desperate need for answers. Finally, I found a door at the end of a long corridor. It was slightly ajar, and I could hear muffled voices coming from within. I pushed the door open, my heart racing as I stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, filled with the flickering glow of candles. In the center stood a large easel, and before it, the collector, a tall, gaunt figure with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. He was painting furiously, his brush moving with a speed that was almost unnatural. The canvas was blank, but I could feel the energy in the air, a palpable tension that made my skin crawl. "Ah, another curious soul," he said, his voice smooth and inviting. "What brings you back to my humble abode?" I clenched my fists, the figurines digging into my palms. "I know what you are," I said, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. "You trap souls in your art. You're a monster." The collector chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Monster? Perhaps. But I am also an artist. Each piece I create is a reflection of the human experience, pain, suffering, beauty. It is a gift to the world, a way to immortalize those who have been lost. You see, every brushstroke is a life captured, a story told. And I have many stories yet to tell." I took a step back, my heart racing. "You're a thief. You steal lives and turn them into art. How can you justify this?" His smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp, too predatory. "Justification is a matter of perspective, my dear. Art is about sacrifice. The greatest masterpieces are born from the deepest pain. You, too, could become part of this legacy. Imagine your name immortalized in the annals of art history." I shook my head, the weight of his words pressing down on me. "I don't want that. I want to free the souls you've trapped. I want to end this." The collector's expression darkened, and the air in the room shifted. You think you can simply walk in here and demand freedom for those who have willingly given themselves to me? They chose to be part of my collection. They understood the price. Price. I spat, anger surging through me. You've taken their lives. They didn't choose this. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. Ah, but you misunderstand. They were drawn to me, just as you were. The allure of art, the promise of immortality, it's a powerful thing. You, too, feel it, don't you? The desire to create, to leave a mark on the world. I gripped the figurines tighter, feeling their energy pulse in my hands. I won't let you take me. I won't become another one of your victims. The collector's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of something, fear, perhaps. You think you can resist? You're already ensnared. The moment you stepped into this house, you became part of my story. With a surge of defiance, I raised the figurines, holding them out like a shield. I know what you are, and I won't let you take me. I will free the souls you've captured. The collector laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the room. You think those trinkets can save you? They are mere echoes of the lives I've taken. You cannot fight me. You are already part of my collection. In that moment, I felt a shift in the air, a crackle of energy that surged through the room. The figurines began to glow, their light illuminating the darkness. I could hear the whispers of the trapped souls, their voices rising in a chorus of anguish and hope. They were reaching out to me, urging me to fight back. Release them. I shouted, my voice rising above the cacophony. You have no power over me. The collector's expression twisted with rage, and he lunged forward, but I stood my ground. The light from the figurines intensified, enveloping me in a warm glow. I could feel the energy of the souls flowing through me, their strength bolstering my resolve. Enough. I cried, and with a surge of will, I thrust the figurines toward the collector. The light exploded from them, filling the room with a blinding brilliance. I felt the force of the energy push against me, but I held on, channeling it into a single, powerful thought, freedom. The collector screamed, a sound of pure rage and terror as the light engulfed him. The paintings around us began to warp and twist, the figures within them writhing in agony. I could feel the souls breaking free, their energy merging with the light, creating a whirlwind of color and sound. "No," the collector bellowed, his form flickering like a candle in the wind. "You cannot do this. I am the master of this realm." But his words were drowned out by the chorus of voices, rising in a triumphant crescendo. The light surged, and in an instant, the collector was consumed, his form dissolving into nothingness. The room shook, and I felt the ground beneath me tremble. As the light began to fade, I found myself back in the gallery, the pedestal empty before me. The paintings that had once held such despair now shimmered with a sense of peace. I could feel the souls of the trapped artists surrounding me, their gratitude washing over me like a warm embrace. I had done it. I had freed them. But as I stood there, a sense of unease crept into my heart. The mansion was still, the air heavy with the remnants of the battle. I glanced around, searching for any sign of the collector, but he was gone. Had I truly defeated him, or had I merely delayed the inevitable? I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I had to leave this place, to escape the shadows that lingered in the air. But as I turned to make my way back to the foyer, a chilling realization struck me. The mansion was not just a physical space, it was a living entity, a labyrinth of memories and emotions that thrived on the stories it contained. I could feel its pulse, a rhythmic thrum that resonated with my own heartbeat. As I navigated the hallways, I noticed that the paintings had changed. No longer were they filled with despair, instead, they depicted scenes of hope and resilience. I saw the faces of the souls I had freed, their expressions serene and grateful. Yet, amidst the beauty, I felt an undercurrent of darkness, a lingering presence that whispered of unfinished business. I reached the foyer, but the door I had entered through was now sealed tight, as if the mansion had decided to keep me inside. Panic surged through me, and I pressed my hands against the door, willing it to open. "Let me out!" I shouted, my voice echoing in the silence. But the door remained unyielding. I turned back to the gallery, searching for another way out. That's when I noticed a small door tucked away in the corner, partially hidden behind a tapestry. It was unassuming, but something about it drew me in. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached for the handle, I hesitated. What if this door led to more horrors? What if the collector had left behind a piece of himself, a remnant of his dark influence? But the urge to escape was too strong. I gripped the handle and pulled the door open. The room beyond was dimly lit, filled with the scent of damp earth and decay. It was a small chamber, lined with shelves that held jars filled with strange substances, each one labeled with a name. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized some of the names. They belonged to the artists whose souls had been trapped in the paintings. I stepped further inside, my heart racing. This was the collector's true lair, the heart of his twisted operation. Each jar contained a fragment of a life, a piece of the artist's essence preserved for eternity. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I realized the extent of his depravity. But amidst the jars, I noticed something else, a large canvas draped in a heavy cloth. My curiosity piqued, I approached it, my hands trembling as I reached for the fabric. I pulled it away, revealing a painting that took my breath away. It was a self-portrait of the collector, but it was unlike anything I had ever seen. His eyes were wild, filled with a manic energy that seemed to pulse with life. The background was a chaotic swirl of colors, a tempest of emotions that mirrored the darkness within him. But what struck me most was the figure standing beside him, a woman, her face hauntingly familiar. It was the same woman from the portrait I had seen earlier, the one who had captivated me. As I stared at the painting, a realization hit me like a bolt of lightning. The woman was not just a subject, she was a part of him, a piece of his soul intertwined with his own. The collector had not only stolen the lives of others, he had also sacrificed his own humanity in the pursuit of immortality. Suddenly, the air in the room shifted, and I felt a presence behind me. I turned slowly, my heart racing as I faced the figure of the collector, his form flickering like a candle in the wind. He was no longer the imposing figure I had confronted earlier, he appeared weakened, his eyes filled with a mixture of rage and desperation. "You think you can escape me," he hissed, his voice low and menacing. "You've only scratched the surface of my power. I am the master of this realm, and you are nothing but a fleeting moment in my grand design." I took a step back, my mind racing. "You're wrong. I've freed the souls you've trapped. They are no longer yours to control." His laughter echoed through the chamber, a sound that sent chills down my spine. "You think they are free? They are bound to me, just as you will be. You cannot escape your fate." With a surge of determination, I raised the figurines once more, channeling the energy of the souls I had freed. "I won't let you take me. I will break your hold." The collector's expression twisted with fury, and he lunged at me, but I was ready. I focused all my energy into the figurines, feeling the warmth of the souls surrounding me. The light erupted from them, filling the room with a blinding brilliance. "No," he screamed, but it was too late. The light engulfed him, and I felt the force of the energy pushing me back. The walls of the chamber began to tremble, and I could hear the whispers of the trapped souls rising in a triumphant chorus. They were joining me, their energy merging with mine, creating a whirlwind of light and sound that threatened to consume everything in its path. The collector's form flickered and twisted, his features contorting in rage and despair. "You cannot do this. I am eternal," he bellowed, but his voice was drowned out by the cacophony of the liberated souls. With a final surge of will, I directed the light toward him, feeling the power of the souls behind me. "You are nothing without them," I shouted, and the light exploded outward, engulfing the collector in a blinding flash. The room shook violently, and I felt the ground beneath me tremble. The jars shattered, their contents spilling across the floor like a torrent of memories. I could hear the cries of the trapped souls, their voices rising in a crescendo of freedom. The walls of the chamber began to crack, and I knew that the mansion itself was reacting to the collector's demise. As the light enveloped everything, I felt a sense of weightlessness, as if I were being lifted from the ground. The energy surged around me, and I closed my eyes, surrendering to the force that was pulling me away from the darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself standing outside the mansion, the sun rising on the horizon. The air was fresh and clean, the weight of despair lifted from my shoulders. I looked back at the mansion, now a mere silhouette against the dawn. It stood silent, its windows dark, as if it had finally succumbed to the light. But as I turned to leave, a flicker of doubt crept into my mind. Had I truly defeated the collector, or had I merely banished him for a time? The thought lingered, a shadow in the back of my mind. I had freed the souls, but the mansion still held its secrets, and I could feel its pulse, a reminder of the darkness that had once thrived within. As I walked away, I felt a sense of purpose rising within me. I would share the stories of those who had been trapped, the artists whose lives had been stolen. I would ensure that their legacies lived on, that their pain and beauty were not forgotten. The collector may have taken their lives, but he would not take their stories. With each step, I felt the weight of the past lifting, replaced by a determination to honor the souls I had freed. I would become their voice, a guardian of their memories, and I would not rest until the world knew the truth. But as I reached the edge of the property, I glanced back one last time. The mansion stood still, a haunting reminder of the darkness that had once consumed it. And in that moment, I couldn't shake the feeling that the collector was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the next curious soul to wander too close. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, but I pushed it aside. I had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. I would not let fear dictate my path. I would carry the light of the souls with me, a beacon against the encroaching shadows. As I walked away from the mansion, I felt the warmth of the rising sun on my face, a promise of new beginnings. I was free, and I would make sure that the stories of those lost would never fade into obscurity. The collector may have thought he could claim me, but I was no longer just a curious soul, I was a storyteller, and I would ensure that the echoes of the unseen would be heard. And as I ventured into the world, I couldn't help but wonder, what other secrets lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered? What other stories were waiting for someone brave enough to seek them out? The journey had just begun, and I was ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead.